This is James Holder for IFL TV. I'm at Wembley Arena today for the press conference of Carl Froch versus George Groves 2. With me, I've got journalist Kevin Mitchell from The Guardian. Right, Kev?
Yep.
Yeah, it's intriguing. You were actually the first man to go on the record and break the venue being Wembley. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I think it was. I'd heard whispers like a few other people, and I put two and two together. Spoke to George at length shortly before I wrote that story. I got a strong sense that George really wanted to fight in London. And then it comes down to Wembley or Emirates. There's only the two places really you can have it for a fight this big. Millennium in Cardiff obviously was another one, but I think this was a fight, and George kept saying it's got to be in the capital city. And I think we all knew that Carl's suggestion that it was going to be in Nottingham, pretty much, you know, a wind-up. It's just not big enough, with all due respect to the good people of Nottingham. It had to be Wembley, and I think it is the venue for a fight that is going to be the biggest since the war. Bound to be, you know, even if it gets to 60, 70,000, it's going to be. And it looks like it's going to be more than that. Yeah, the word I hear is that, you know, the demand for tickets is pretty enormous.
Eddie Hearn, I just heard he said that all tickets to the public have sold out within an hour.
Yeah, well, that's extraordinary when you consider the number of seats that are there and the number of seats that are available. And there's also the other thing that people like to be at an event, but I don't think they'll lose pay-per-view clout with this, because people will buy the fight as well. You know, they'll go to the fight and they'll buy the fight and they'll watch it later on. It'll become something to keep for a long time.
What do you think the difference is between where Carl Froch is mentally coming into this fight as he was before? Do you think we won't underestimate George as much?
I've just been talking to Rob McCracken, and Rob's a very good reader of his fighters' mental state, and I think before the first fight, Carl probably did take his eye off the ball a bit. I think he did. I think it was no complacency, whatever you like to call it. And I think this time there is no danger of that, because he's felt the power of George's punches and the speed and the movement and the resistance, the cleverness of his boxing. He really knows he's in a tough fight, and it was a very, very tough fight last time. I think that was the trickiest fight Carl's had since very early in the Showtime series, when he just got past Durrell. I think it was that tricky a fight, plus the knockdown.
Yeah, that was the final round, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true. And it was, well, that was Jermaine Taylor. He beat Jermaine Taylor in the final round. That was a tricky fight as well, but Carl wasn't quite on the ball in that fight until the last rounds either. But I think the movement that George brought to the first fight with Carl, he's been very much made aware of, and that's for him to solve. Whether he can do that at 36, rising 37, we'll find out. It'll take a lot of leg movement, a lot of upper body movement to avoid George's sharp punching, plus he'll be doing his own work. So it's an intriguing fight. It really is. It's a great clash of styles. The older champion getting towards the end, the young guy on the rise, you know, couldn't be more perfect.
Without running the risk of going over old ground, Howard Foster, right decision, wrong decision, your opinion?
Well,
not Howard's opinion, your opinion. What do you think?
I'm not blaming Howard, by the way. I thought he was maybe wrong, but I can understand why he might have made the wrong decision if that's not sitting on the fence too much. I think he could have let it go just a little bit longer. Having said that, my instinct at the time was that if he hadn't caught George in his arms and then his legs went a little bit, or seemed to go a little bit, and then moved him away from Carl, that Carl would have pounced on him. There was quite a lot of time left in that round, and Carl's a great finisher, and he would have gone to work on him. George says that he feels Carl was getting weaker in that 9th round. That's his opinion as a boxer. He just felt the weight of punch wasn't there. Carl says the same about George. Maybe that's just the way fighters talk. My instinct was that Carl's done it so many times before to find something that in that couple of minutes left in that round, he would have absolutely poured it on. It would have been ugly. There wouldn't have been any science involved. I mean, it was going that way anyway. He was square on, even when he had him on the ropes. I think he would have stopped him. But you know, who can be sure? And I think that's the delicious part of this whole story.
How much does this intensify the rematch? We've got what we want, to be honest. The public have got the fight, pretty much the fight of the century. They're saying that the last time Wembley, the actual stadium was used, was when Bruno won a world title. So when you think of events like that magnitude, it kind of puts it into perspective a little bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, you'll be able to say in the street, you know, I've got tickets for Froch Groves, and people will know what you're talking about. You know, people would say Bruno in the old days. You didn't have to say who Bruno was. Now the public recognition factor of these two guys is massive, and we've got 3 months to go. I've had people ringing up. I'm sure you have. Anyone in the boxing business. How do I get a ticket? It's going to be like that, you know. And touts will have a field day, no doubt. And I think they'll fill the place. I think we'll get to 80,000, and it all goes back. And the point's been made a few times now to that decision in the 9th round by Howard Foster, an honest decision. Let's not be equivocal about that. He
called it how he saw it.
Absolutely, and yeah, you can't blame him for that at all. And he's a good referee. But what it did was it cut the fight short. Rightly or wrongly, it cut it short. And now we've got the second part of the fight. We've actually got one fight in 2 sections.
So do you think, in a way, Howard Foster is responsible for this rematch? Because if it would have been a clean-cut, shut-and-case finish, we wouldn't be standing here today, would we?
Both of these guys owe Howard Foster a huge debt of thanks. He has made them very rich men.
I agree.
Because I don't think it would have happened like this. Just say Carl had won that fight in the 9th, which I suspect he might have done. Just say George rode the storm and had a big points lead and held it and became new champion. The rematch would have happened down the road, perhaps. Now, it's the next fight for both of them because the public have demanded it and the public have made the fight. If there wasn't this sort of thirst for it, they'd still be negotiating. But it's a fight neither of them can really avoid. George really wanted the fight because he lost. Carl knows he has to fight him to make a lot of money. Let's not be coy about this, and also to vindicate any decision because he knows that people are still a little bit uncertain about whether he would have won the fight or not. And sport thrives on uncertainty.
Have you ever known another decision in your lifetime of boxing to cause so much controversy after an event? In British boxing?
In British boxing?
Yes.
God, that's a good one to put me on the spot.
Digging out your knowledge a bit here, aren't I?
I'd have to give it some thought, actually, James. Yeah, there've been stoppages and controversial decisions. You could go back and trawl the records. I mean, none that spring. Well, I suppose that the one decision that everyone will remember was Henry Cooper, Joe Bugner, Henry's last fight. Now that left a bad taste in Henry's mouth, and Joe was very unpopular for a long time because of it. I mean, that one springs to mind immediately. I mean, that was a controversial decision. You could say that that's the nearest equivalent. But I'm sure there are many others. If I sat down and thought about, I could dredge up as well.
All right. Well, listen, Kevin. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with me today. Give me a little bit of your time. Well done on getting it right on breaking the Wembley news. As I said, to do that on a hunch and put your neck on the line in the paper is very brave. We just about say stuff on Twitter, so fair play to you for doing that. I'll pick it up. I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
Check you soon. Thanks, man.
Nice talking to you.